Picture this for me, if you may. A 3-year-old boy whose only memory of his father is one where his father does not accept him. His lasting memory is that of a man who is meant to be his protector and his provider, saying, "I don't know what you've been told or what have been said, but you are not my son." Now picture this 3-year-old boy growing up and becoming a teenager, 14, 15, with all the hormones and being tall and lanky. And imagine the effect that this has on him. Imagine how low his self-esteem must be. Imagine how difficult it must be to approach somebody new and start up a conversation. Imagine how low or how much he must doubt himself. And it all stemmed from that one source of rejection. Rejection. That's what we're going to talk about today. Hello everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I am Egbert, and this is the Excellence Project, and I thank you for joining me today while we talk about the fear of rejection. There is an excellent individual in all of us. That person committed to self-improvement by taking small actions consistently over time. Hi, I am Egbert, and this is another journal entry from my journey to find my inner excellent individual. I warn you, if you're watching this video, please be very careful, as you may find information that might be dangerous to your comfort zone, and you may soon find yourself on a journey of your own. So far, we've spoken about the fear of failure, and today we will be talking about the fear of rejection. Rejection. What is rejection? It is referred to as an act of dismissal, an act of refusing or declining something, or refusing someone, whether that may be a job offer, so you went for an interview and you didn't get the job, whether it may be the end of a relationship. I know there are so many of us, or so many people out there today who are dealing with this particular one. where they were in a relationship and all of a sudden the other person has decided that I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. This can be very difficult. This form of rejection can be very difficult. And I have seen some terrible stories firsthand of people suffering from broken hearts. I have seen men searching rubbish bins looking for the woman that has broken their heart. So I know rejection is not easy, but the fear of rejection is even worse. So being rejected is not an easy thing. Rejection may have a significant negative impact on our personal development, on our self-esteem, our confidence, and overall well-being. It could lead to us feeling excluded or unwanted. But having said that, there is light at the end of the tunnel. In a 2015 article by an author called Guy Winch, he said that the greatest damage rejection inflicts on us is self-inflicted. So we suffer, or the worst negative effects we suffer of rejection is not from the actual episode, but it's from what we do with that episode, from how we see that rejection. It's from the perspective that we take. See, most of us, when we suffer rejection, we internalize it, we personalize it. We take it to mean that it is something, or there is something wrong about us. We take it to mean that we are not good enough. We take it to mean that we were not doing something that we were meant to be doing. When in fact, most times when somebody gets rejected, it's actually about the other person and not about them. So in a relationship standpoint, for example, if somebody decides they don't want to be in a relationship with you, it is not necessarily because of you or that you're a bad person or that you're not good enough. A lot of times it is because of things that is going on with the person that is deciding to leave. A lot of times it's because of circumstances outside of their control, or it might be a timing issue. If you were going to go for a job interview, for example, and you didn't get that job, sometimes it may be that the person who was hiring didn't do their homework, so they couldn't see what you were bringing to their team. But it doesn't mean that you were not good enough. It just meant that they were not prepared enough for the task that they were supposed to be doing. So according to Mr. Winch, self-inflicted damage stems from our natural response to rejection. He goes on to explain that we become extremely self-critical at a time when our self-esteem is at its lowest. So someone's left you, it's really knocked your confidence. The natural reaction is to become very, very critical of yourself. But being overly critical at that particular time is not only emotionally unhealthy, it is also psychologically self-destructive. So we pick the wrong time to be overly self-critical. It's okay to reflect and learn the lessons. However, it is not acceptable and it's not okay to be overly self-critical, as this is not beneficial, and in fact it is damaging. Let's look at why even the smallest rejection, the hint of rejection, hurts so much. Why do we feel physically sick and in pain when somebody we love, for example, rejects us? A possible answer to this is found by scientists who used MRIs to monitor participants, or the brains of participants who took part in their studies. So what they did is they would put someone in an MRI machine, scan their brain, and they would ask the person to recall their last episode of rejection. So the last time something happened to them where they felt rejected. And what they found was the same part of the brain that becomes active when you're suffering from physical pain is the same part of the brain that was becoming active when the person or the participants was thinking of that episode of rejection. So it seems like it's something that is inbuilt in us, and it is closely wired, or it is hardwired into that part of our brain that lets us feel physical pain. Evolutionary psychologists argues that the reason why our brain is hardwired this way can be tracked back to the period in history when we were hunter-gatherers, when we lived in tribes, when our chances of survival was slim to none if we were banished from the tribe. So as a result of that, we developed a sort of an early warning system whereby our brain would alert us of the risk of being ostracized, or the risk of being voted off the island by the tribe if we do not tailor our behavior, or if we do not start acting in a way that was acceptable to the rest of the group or the rest of the tribe. So this was an inbuilt early warning system. So the people who experienced more pain when they were rejected were more likely to change their behavior, remain as part of the tribe, and continued contributing towards the species, or towards the existence of human beings. Let's quickly look at ways in which rejection affects us. One of them is social anxiety. So anyone who is suffering from social anxiety, they have a fear for being in social situations or social interactions with others. A person battling with that kind of anxiety may avoid social settings, or they will struggle to interact socially with others for the fear of being rejected or being judged. The next way in which rejection, or the fear of rejection, can affect us is low self-esteem. I mean, if we believe that rejection is personal, we may internalize that rejection as a personal flaw or a personal failure. And this can lead to negative self-talk and diminished self-worth. So in dealing with this, it's important to realize that rejection, most of the times, it's due to external factors, such as a poor match or environmental circumstances such as wrong time. It most often is not personal. The next way in which rejection can affect us is avoidance, and this may lead to risk avoidance or cessation of trying new things. So we'll stop trying new things at all. We won't take any kind of risk at all, whether it's a calculated risk or not, because of the fear of rejection. It can limit our opportunities for personal and professional growth. The fear of rejection may lead us to become people pleasers. I must confess, this was one of my weaknesses, where I wanted to be seen so much as the person who had all the answers. I wanted to be seen as the most helpful person. So I didn't know how to say no. If somebody asked me to do something, I would say yes. I would promise to do that thing, even if at the back of my mind I knew it would be difficult. But what I learned the hard way is it's easier, or it's better to say no up front if you can't do it, than disappointing the person later when you're not able to fulfill your promise. So extreme people pleasing puts you in a very difficult position, because you oftentimes have to stretch yourself to the limit to please everybody. The fear of rejection can affect our self-esteem and our confidence. It can also trigger a deep-seated feeling of inadequacy, shame, and self-doubt, which may impact our personal growth and development. This low self-esteem leads to a constant negative self-talk and self-doubt. So we're constantly putting ourselves down, and we have absolutely no belief in ourselves, all because we internalize an episode of rejection. What are some of the action tips that we can use to overcome this fear of rejection? One of them, or the first one, is to identify and challenge negative thoughts. I am not good enough becomes I am good enough. I can do this. I may need to improve myself. I may need to train. I may need to learn. I may need to read. But I am certainly good enough. Action tip number 2 is to develop a zero tolerance. That's develop a zero tolerance to self-criticism. Zero tolerance. It is okay to examine yourself. It is okay to find the areas that you can develop or you need to develop, but it's not okay to constantly criticize and belittle yourself. So the things that we say to ourselves sometimes, if we were to witness somebody else telling that to our friend or even to a stranger, we would intervene and we would literally blow our top. But on a daily basis, we criticize ourselves. On a daily basis, we speak negatively to ourselves. The next thing is to change the way you see rejection. So when somebody rejects you, be it in love or in business or in friendship, you need to tell yourself and you need to see that it is not a personal thing. It may just be a case that this is the wrong time or the wrong feat, or the other person has things going on that they cannot deal with the relationship at the moment, or the friendship, or the employer doesn't see the benefit that you bring to the team. So do not personalize rejection. If you've experienced an episode of rejection, it is okay to reflect. However, you should resist the temptation to punish and criticize yourself. And that leads us to the next action tip. Practice self-compassion. We need to be our biggest cheerleaders. We need to be able to treat ourselves with kindness and understanding. We need to be able to speak kindly to ourselves. Accept that rejection is a common experience in life. Then turn your attention to your strengths and your positive qualities. So, in other words, when you experience an episode of rejection, this is the time to automatically turn and resuscitate your self-esteem, as opposed to being overly critical. So just when our self-esteem has been injured, instead of turning and looking at ourselves with compassion and kindness, what we do is we start beating ourselves with a stick. Be compassionate to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Yes, it's okay to look at yourself and find the things that you can do better. But it is also okay to be kind to yourself. When was the last time you looked at yourself in the mirror and say, I like what I see. I like the person. Just tell yourself, I love you, man. I love who you are. You're a good person. You're kind. When was the last time you said something kind to yourself? Overall, the fear of rejection can have a very negative impact on our lives. It can prevent us from achieving our goals, from forming meaningful relationships, and from becoming successful. But if we can put these tips into action, if we can take a zero tolerance to self-criticism, if we can identify the negative thoughts that we have towards ourselves, if we can find our limiting beliefs and self-doubt and change them around, we can overcome the fear of rejection, and we can live successful and fulfilled lives. Thank you for joining me today. We were talking about rejection, what it does to us, and how we can overcome it. Next week, we will be talking about the fear of success. Yes, I know there are some of us out there who go out of our way to sabotage ourselves because we fear being successful. I want to thank you for joining me today, and I want to encourage you, if the information that was shared in the video is beneficial to you in any way, why don't you give us a thumbs up, give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you can be notified when we drop another video. The more people who subscribe to the channel, the bigger it gets, the more things we can do. We can get guests on, we can continue to provide these information, or the information that will help you as it is helping me. Like I keep saying, this is my journey. These are the things that I am learning. These are the ways that it's affecting me, and I am sharing it with you so that you can learn from my experience. Jim Rohn says one of the best ways to learn is to learn from other people's experience. OPE says other people's experience. We don't always have to experience it to learn from it, because we can learn from other people's experience. So hit the like button, share the video if it's beneficial to you, hit the notification bell and subscribe to the channel. And I will see you next week when we're going to talk about the fear of success. Till next time, this is Egbert saying stay well in mind, spirit and body.